On this episode of the OG and Crab Show, the pirates can't get out of their own way again and again, and it's being noticed. Roll that music. Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the OG and Crab Show. Two Yinzer dads, which means we have Yinzer kids, and they were nebbing on us, and so it's been a little bit since we recorded, but we're back, and that means that Crab is with me. How's it going, Crab?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. The pirates, boy, they're pirating, aren't they?
Yes, they are indeed incredibly stupid.
It's been a while since we spoke, and everybody else on the internet has already weighed in on this. So now it's our turn. So we're going to talk about how the pirates mess up PR again and again and again, can't get out of their own way. And the first thing that came out, this is a while ago for everybody who pays close attention, but they had a new advertisement on the Clemente wall near the foul pole out there in right field for a Surfside can of something. It's probably
it's Surfside
those...
iced tea and vodka, and it's a delightful drink. I love it. I drink it all the time.
So it's Zima.
It's better than Zima. This is the official podcast of Surfside. To all you haters out there.
So it's Surfside, and
made in Philadelphia,
Surfside,
which is the closest thing we can get to made in Pittsburgh sometimes, so.
Hey, what about that? What about the Icy Light Mangoes?
I'm just saying, if at least it's a Pennsylvania, at least they're in the Commonwealth. Okay. I'll take it.
All right. Yeah. It's better than that Ohio swill, right?
Correct.
Okay. So
now, if it was an Ohio beverage that put their name over Clemente, it would have been
then you're upset.
Yes, absolutely. God, even
more
pitchforks would have been out.
The backstory for anyone who wasn't ear to the rail on this stuff, the Pirates sold this portion of the outfield wall for advertising, and in doing so, took down the sort of ad hoc Roberto Clemente 21 logo insignia thing that has been there. Sticker, yeah,
sticker.
Right. But it was a Roberto Clemente graphic that was on that wall apparently only since 2022. I didn't keep close track of that, but as the story goes, they lost some advertisers during COVID and didn't have anything to sell on there, so they just threw this insignia up there, and it was there from 2022 through the end of last year, so 3 seasons. And this year they managed to sell that space to Surfside, and so they took down the Clemente insignia and put up the Surfside can advertisement. And this piece of the ballpark had been used for advertising for decades prior to 2022, and then when it wasn't, they put up the Clemente graphic. And when that came down, it got noticed by the internet. And when the internet notices something, everybody has to get really, really upset on the internet about it. So
they don't notice it at once, too. That's the thing.
Well, it gets noticed on the internet, it gets passed around, and of course, Roberto Clemente Jr., who is on the internet, saw it and got upset by it and released a statement scolding the team for not including him in this important decision. And so the team basically just reverted it to the way that it was from 2022 through last year. They took down the Surfside ad. I don't know what that does to their ad money.
We're back to the sticker.
But we're back to the Clemente wall having some official branding as being the Clemente wall. So that's what happened.
I never knew it I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a different wall all those years. I'm glad they told us, like, they put up a sticker. God knows we don't have enough stuff about Roberto Clemente around the team, so
yeah,
never figured it out.
that is, of course, the reaction to the reaction is, well, they honor Clemente left, right, and center at that place, as they should. And I mean, the wall was named after him. It's 21 feet tall because he wore number 21. His bridge is in the backdrop. It's named after him. Of course, the city did that. The team didn't do it. His statue's outside. Like, Clemente is everywhere at PNC Park. So it's not as if they don't honor him, but this is one of those occasions, and this is a theme with this team and with this management. Really, it's not the team; it's the management, and this is the business side of things. This is the communication side. They do this all the time, where they just don't imagine what the reaction is going to be from really anybody. They just go about their business and think, well, we're going to do this. This is a good idea for us. And what could possibly go wrong? And they never consider the the Yinzer reaction, and the Yinzer reaction was swift and firm in this one, to the point where only days later they've taken down an ad from a paying sponsor and put back up a graphic that really doesn't have any provenance at all. It's just a thing that they put up there to, like,
it's a sticker
to occupy space. But since they didn't communicate it properly, since they didn't explain, all they had to do was call a little press conference at some point before the season to say, here's the changes to the ballpark, and explain this is something that we had put up there to honor Roberto Clemente when we couldn't sell the ad space, and now we have sold the ad space. And so instead, we're going to commemorate him over here.
Somewhere else.
Commemorate him over here, which they also didn't do. So they totally.
You could put the sticker on the statue. Maybe it's a statue of him holding a sticker, standing on his bridge, wearing a shirt. Like, it's a meta thing. We're just gonna Clemente on the Clemente with another Clemente.
Like, it could have been a giveaway. They could have done a free bumper sticker for your car for the first 10,000 fans.
21 people.
Yeah, for the first 2,100 fans, and then they'd only have
21 because they're too cheap.
They'd have a few hundred left over if they gave it to the first 2,100 fans.
All right, so let me respond to this, because I'm going to take a counterpoint to your point here is, the Pirates are damned if they do and damned if they don't. So if I'm of two minds of this. I have two hats. I have one hat which is sympathetic in a sense to the fact that the Pirates are not a business that has shareholders. They're not a civic organization. They're not accountable to people in a way that other institutions in public life or private life in this country may be. And ergo, we are entitled to a ticket. We're entitled to go to the game and enjoy the entertainment aspect of it, but we're not entitled to know, on Tuesday somebody wiped their ass down there on Federal Street. That's not how this is going to work. And if I am the Pirates, of course I don't call a press conference, because if they call a press conference about this issue, then they get clowned on, because they're calling press conferences about stickers and not signing a right fielder. And that's exactly what would have happened. And so this whole thing is just the grist mill of the Yinzer nutting outrage machine, of which there is an entire industrial complex of this in the region. And if that machine doesn't fire up every couple months, then the peasants get mad and they storm the Bastille. Now, the other side of things is, I might be the only person in the world that has this thesis statement on the Clementes, because I'm so cynical. I sometimes think, just from 1,000 feet away with the family, that perhaps there might be, I think sometimes they're living off the dad, Roberto's legacy a little too much. I know they, sell the movie rights, they've sold the book rights and all this stuff. So part of me wonders if it wasn't like their outrage isn't just another cynical ploy to have some kind of, consulting thing with the team, i.e. some cash money, like stuff like that. maybe that's a bit too cynical, but I'm not afraid to say it because in my mind, it flashed through there and I'm thinking, like, all this over a sticker that was just a replica of a decal that used to be in Three Rivers Stadium because they threw it up because there was just some green there and they didn't want to see some green. So they threw up a freaking sticker. And then we want the team to raise money. Like selling advertisement space in the outfield bleachers has been a part of baseball tradition since the 1870s, for crying out loud. So, I mean, I just see this as like a bunch of nothing about nothing. It's a nothing burger. And, I feel in a weird way, like it just seems like weird to me that we would get so mad about this and then demand all this accountability for a fucking sticker. Get the fuck out of here. It's ludicrous. That's just how I feel about the sticker thing, man. So, I mean, and to your point, like, they teach about Roberto Clemente in school here at the end of the year for like fun stuff at the last like week. My kid came home in third grade last year and was like, "Hey, do you know about Roberto Clemente?" I was like, "No, really, tell me more." So it's like there is no, I mean, this is like etched into the Yinzer lore here. So it's just really misplaced outrage for the state of the economics in baseball. Everybody's mad about the fact that the team didn't compete, didn't do anything, which is really just they're mad that we don't have a salary cap and they're mad that we don't have hope. All the things we talked about in our first episode. And that's what this is all, misplaced anger for the system, which is the worst of laissez-faire economics in the sports world.
And that whole damned if you do, damned if you don't reminded me of when a couple of years ago they started selling advertising on the video wall that's built into that same Clemente wall, and it was uproarious anger about selling ads on what was supposed to be the out of town scoreboard. And
right.
So it's another instance of we need you to sign better players. We need you to make more money. Why don't you make more money and sign better players? And then when they try to make more money, oh no, not like that. I
Poor
tend to
Surfside
agree.
Vodka. Everyone's going to be boycotting them in the city of Pittsburgh now, and I'm here to say that's a delightful product. Please sponsor this podcast.
They say there's no bad publicity, but boy, they took it on the chin, and they're completely innocent in this, unless of course they were looking at the stadium when they were buying their advertising and said, hey, give us that one out there that'll take down the Clemente sticker.
Who's that guy
off
again?
Of the wall.
We're from Philadelphia. Is that guy Bill Clemente? We'll put it over his. Let's stick him on let's put a sticker right on the statue outside. They said.
Yeah, the fact that they're from Philly means they get no sympathy.
I will say this about Surfside Vodka: it's 100 calories. It's got no bubbles because iced tea doesn't have bubbles. It's a great again. I'm just shilling for Surfside. If you're out there in the world, sponsor this podcast. I'll take those nutting bucks and make it rain.
So that was the Surfside Wall debacle that started off the PR bad week for the Bucks. The next one is actually a story that I know I made mention of in an earlier episode in passing, but it flared back up again, and that is the Bucco bricks. So way back over the winter, the Pirates undertook a renovation project of the sidewalk plaza area that surrounds the Honus Wagner statue at the home plate entrance to PNC Park. The concrete was cracked and they were getting clowned on for the poor state of maintenance of this particular portion of the pavement. And so they undertook a renovation project and they blocked it all off. And there was a lot of mounds of dirt and a lot of fencing blocking things off. And lo and behold, they removed the commemorative pavers that when the stadium was first being built were sold to around about 10,000 diehards who...
That's what paid for Ed Sprague's contract, I think.
I don't know what I don't
Kevin
know if it paid
Pokovich?
for more than installing the bricks in the first place, but there were people who put loved ones' names on there. There were people who bought them who've passed away, and it sort of like evolved into a memorial for their families. So there was a lot of emotional energy tied up in the Bucco bricks, and people would visit them. And every time they'd go to the ballpark, they'd see Pap's name on the brick, and they'd say to whoever they were with, "Hey, that's my Pap's name on that brick right there on the sidewalk." And they'd always look for it whenever they went to the game. And so the Pirates took them all out without really explaining what they were going to do with them. And of course, the internet, being the internet, found the removed pavers piled up at a waste recycling facility where they were destined to be pulverized into dust and turned into, I don't know, somebody's pool deck somewhere. So that's the Bucco bricks debacle. And again, this is a case of if they had just gotten out in front of a story and explained themselves, maybe they wouldn't have taken so much heat. But to your earlier point, if they had come out and declared, we're taking out everybody's Bucco bricks and we're going to take them back to our workshop and we're going to fix them up there and bring them back here, would that have been well received? Would people have still been upset? What do you think?
They would have been upset. They would have been upset either way. Again, this franchise is damned if they do and damned if they don't. Now, the Bucco bricks one, I have a little bit of a different. I still think if they had called a press conference in December and said, we're doing all the maintenance and we're taking the bricks out, people would have lost their minds because they were, not doing Major League Baseball things and building a team around Paul Skeens. He's a generational pitcher, don't you know? And so they would have taken heat and they would have gotten clowned. And I think that Williams and company misunderstand the amount of hatred people really truly do have for the Pirates and Bob Nutting. And so they should know this because they've been here for 6 years. And so the smart thing would be to say, put something on the internet, put out a press release saying, hey, we got to get rid of the bricks because they're broken. Anybody who bought it, the records are no longer here because that was in 99. So if you had a brick, give us a call or go to pirates.com/whatever. Tell us who you are. We'll give you the brick if you want it. If not, it's going to a dumpster. And we, because have a season coming up in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever this would have been, got baseball to play. We're going to have to wait to the end of the season to unveil what we're going to do with these freaking things because we can't just have some construction going on around the concourse when you all are lined up to get your Permani sandwiches and you are trying to take a piss. And we can't have shit shut down to put some fucking bricks up. So this is going to have to wait to the end of the season, Pirates fans. I hope you can understand. Like, this is what they should have done. And they didn't, because if they did this, they would have gotten clowned, right? I mean, I can see it clear as day. Anyone who's listening to this podcast hears my voice, know in their hearts that team would have gotten dog walked for saying anything about a brick. So they have this blind spot as a result. Now, my question to you and to the listening audience is this. What the hell if I'm Bob Nutting, what the hell is Travis Williams here for? Right? Like, I'm a villain. Everybody hates my guts, right? I'm stuck with the economic realities of baseball and I can't really change them. So I hire you, Travis. Your job is to make me look good, to do things to make me look better. So if you don't do those things for me, Travis, then why the fuck do I pay you? Like, this is the question I have for this organization, is this passivity that they have. How I feel like, I don't want to make an uncouth statement, but if Bob had cancer, he'd probably he'd give it 6 years to figure out what it's got. Like, this is, like, he's so passive with these guys. Hold them accountable. Williams, he probably misunderstood the level of vitriol in this city about the Pirates. And on one hand, I'm slightly empathetic because in the real sports world where he's come from, people don't hate their teams this bad, maybe unless you're like a Raiders fan or something, or a Browns fan, or I don't know. Can't really think of another good analogy, but like the Athletics. But like, you got a job at the Pirates, you make millions of dollars a year, presumably. Like, you should have figured that out pretty quick. It should have taken you 6 years. I've given you a couple months to figure out, oh, people really hate this team. It should have taken you 6 years to figure out that you will not get the benefit of the doubt here. And again, Bob brought in a regime in Charrington and Williams, and somehow they have made his public reputation even worse. We are now at 2007 levels of hype as far as selling the team and guys wearing paper bags on their heads and flying planes over the town. I mean, boycotting is we got billboards up and we got boycotts going. It's just, it got worse. How did this get worse on the field and in the front? I mean, it's almost incomprehensible to fathom that this guy, you know, looks at these two morons in Charrington and Williams and thinks, huh, yeah, this is really working out for me. They made you look worse, Bob. If you ever hear this, fire these fucking clowns, my brother. Get them out of here.
There was a columnist for the Trib, who, I don't have his name, who wrote an op-ed and made an appearance on KDK about this, and
like, I'm sad about the bricks because of those reasons. I get it, and I'm not making fun of that, but like, you know, not to catch it.
But the point, what I'm getting to here is Nutting sent him an email that he then like shared with the world. It was titled "An Apology" from Robert Nutting, and in an excerpt from this was, "I too was shocked, angered, and disappointed when I saw the images of the bricks carelessly tossed aside in that recycling center. That was a mistake. It was disrespectful. It was wrong. I am sorry." And like this is a very like straightforward and like forthright message that sort of is like a mea culpa, saying like, I messed up by letting these guys have this much of a leash. He goes on to say, "I take my stewardship of this franchise seriously. I am embarrassed. I have directed the team to accelerate their review and to move quickly on the steps needed to fix this. I have fallen short in my most important role, representing you, representing the community and all our fans. I intend to hold everyone in the organization, including myself, to a higher standard. You and your father deserve better." He's referring to his father, whose name was on the brick that was removed and destroyed. So, like, Nutting, we've heard from like various reporting over the years that Nutting has a very hands-off approach to managing the ball club, that he has this philosophy of, if I don't trust my employees, I should fire them because I need to be able to trust them and let them do their jobs. Well, this is a case, as you just pointed out, where whatever successes Travis Williams has demonstrated in
he hasn't had any.
Well, improving
the game day experience is ostensibly worse. The video boards are worse. Yes, the video boards are worse. Some of the food options have gotten significantly, you know, certainly weren't as good as they were, you know, 10 or 12 years ago.
So there's no credit given for all of the standing room, all of the.
No.
What about getting into the park where you don't have to get searched anymore? They've got like the scanners.
Did they get credit for that? The entrances are always packed. It's hard to get in and out of there. I mean,
okay.
I'm just pointing out, like, I personally, you know, I mean, Coonley, Williams' predecessor got caught drunk driving. I mean, these guys, you know, are all got warts. There's no perfect, you know, Huntington or whatever. You can't make, I mean, I'm not going to try to defend the other regime either, but like, I can't say, wow, you know, Williams has really been knocking it out of the park, and this one thing is really a blemish on his record. I can't feel like I can say that confidently.
At the end of the day, like, whatever improvements he did or didn't make to the ballpark, I mean, you're looking at here this year, granted it's cold, it's early, but you're looking at an absolutely vacant ballpark, and his job is to fill it with paying customers and get them to pay more to do so.
And we haven't even talked about Charrington again, the other side of the coin. You know, you have Williams, who's making Bob look terrible from a PR perspective. And if I'm Bob, I mean, get this guy out of here. And then you have Charrington, who came in here with the mandate to crack the code, as we talked about in a previous episode. For you hardcore listeners, you can go, that was episode 3. And it was all about development. these guys have developed worse. You have a 1-1 in Henry Davis that's pretty much on the track to be a bust. I mean, he had a nice game yesterday, but notwithstanding, hasn't developed. Sawinski has gotten worse. I mean, you have a coaching staff who can't seem to access the tools of these players. Cruz is a really, Fangraphs had an article about Cruz today, complete with like citations of how bad his defensive work has been in center field. So not to belabor the point, but like, part of the reason why no one's going and Williams is having a hard time making Instagrammable moments down there is because the on-field product is putrid. It's year fucking 6, dude. And Bob is still hemming and hawing. I don't know. Got to give him more time. And if you really read Bob speak in March at spring training when he said, I gave Ben all the resources. I mean, that's his way of saying, I think I've done enough. I've done everything they've asked me to do, and I'm still not getting a return on my investment. And this thing with Williams, like if Bob has to email a fucking columnist in the Trib himself, that's the job of the president of baseball operations and his PR people they get paid to do this job. I want that job. You and I should get these jobs. We can't possibly do any worse. Because this is Artie Moreno, Dick Manafort level of meddling that we don't want from Bob, because we know the Pirates could easily be the Rockies, or they could easily be the Angels, who had 2 generationally good players and had Dick to show for it. This is when people always come at me and say, "Oh, if they just spent money, they just spent money." Yeah, we'd be the fucking Angels. But I don't want Bob meddling. I don't. He shouldn't be emailing columnists, and he shouldn't be talking, to the media about, getting involved in baseball operations. So yeah, that's the rant I have with this, and that's why nobody's interested in going down there. The team is putrid.
That's a good segue. That's it. Talking about the wasting away of Ohtani and Trout in Anaheim is a good segue to a little bit of a media blitz that has followed in the wake of these PR debacles, where there seems to be a bit of, I don't know what's motivating it or what all of a sudden prompted Jeff Passan and Travis Sawchik to peek up over Mount Washington and decide to wag a finger at the Pirates from afar, but they did. And in part of the media blitz of this for Passan was being a guest host on Baseball Today, the daily John Boy baseball podcast that Chris Rose hosts. And they got to talking about Paul Skeens, which Passan released an article this week, a big feature article about Paul Skeens. And of course, we mustn't forget that we need to shame the Pirates for not, quote, building around Paul. So let's hear what they have to say.
Move on to the team whose hat I am donning, Pittsburgh Pirates. Paul Skeens, another solid night at the ballpark. Good bounce back for him because he did not look good in his previous game against St. Louis. 6 innings, 1 earned, 6 Ks, no walks. My question for you is this. Does it feel like Skeens' most important game every year as a Pirate will be his season opener? And if so, doesn't that make you sad?
What kind of stupid fucking question is that, OG? What does it even mean?
It means that Paul Skeens is never going to start a playoff game. It means that Paul Skeens is only ever going to do what he's already done with the Pirates.
How obnoxious! How condescending and obnoxious that is. Look at this fucking guy with that hat. Take that hat off.
This is their shtick. So let it roll, and it'll get worse.
The whole thing makes me sad. It does, because here. So let's break down where the Pirates are. They are really good at developing pitching. It's not just like Skeens was more or less a finished product, but let's look at the guys that they've developed in recent years. Mitch Keller has been very solid. Bubba Chandler on the way up right now. There's a lot more in the minor league system. I'm not
No,
going to
there
say
isn't. That's kind of all there is.
the Pirates have hacked pitching, but they figured out how to take toolsy guys like Bubba Chandler, who could have played college football and was a two-way player in high school, and turn him into someone. Did you see how hard he threw a couple days ago? By the way, yeah, Bubba Chandler hitting 102 like easy. And a guy.
Didn't this guy write a book about guys blowing their arms out and how it's like max velocity and RPM is like a bad thing? And he's on this show talking about, oh, it's just so easy. Like, give me a break.
As a matter of fact, it is.
I mean, these dudes just talk out of both sides of their mouths. It's There's never a straight line with these guys.
That is going to be the theme to my critique here, is that they're talking out of both sides of their mouths, and it gets worse and worse. Keep going.
He's got all kinds of confidence and swag, too. Big Bubba Chandler fan. I think he's going to be a mainstay in that rotation. Jared Jones is another one, and it's a bummer that he's hurt right now. I hope he's able to come back a little later in the year healthy. But they've got the pitching part now.
Because he's 1 foot tall and throws 900 miles an hour, and that is not what humans are supposed to do.
When you got the pitching part down, there are two things that you need to do. You need to develop hitting, and you need to complement, if you're going to be a team that is mostly homegrown, with strong free agent signings. The Pittsburgh Pirates.
Okay, let's stop right there.
Yes, let's stop right there.
Tell me all the famous like homegrown teams that go out and do big free agent signings. Like, give me like, I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, if we're going to be the National League version of the Athletics, like the old school A's or the Tampa Bay Rays, I don't see those franchises going out and signing big name free agents. I just don't.
They do not.
Do you?
They do not.
So that's not just me making that up, right? Is that true?
No. And this is the two sides of their mouth thing that they're going to say on one hand, and they'll say this at some point, I promise, they always do. We don't expect them to be the Dodgers or the Mets. We don't expect them to spend that kind of money, but they need to spend more than they're spending now. But then they'll go on to say, like, they'll list off teams that are in similar market sizes to the Pirates and have similar revenues to the Pirates. And then they'll list off a very broad range of payrolls that those teams are running. And then it's shame on the Pirates for not having which one of those payrolls. So we'll get to that. So let it roll. But like, know that they're going to expect some kind of spending, but they don't say how much. It could be anywhere between a little bit more and a lot more.
Well, clearly those small market teams, they got to keep their Surfside cans in right field. So, I mean, that was clearly what gave them those free agents, is the Surfside money.
Haven't signed a free agent to a multi-year contract since Ivan Nova in 2016. The Pirates this offseason spent $19.95 million on free agent signings when they have a generational pitcher, a guy who I think, if he stays healthy, is going to be a Hall of Famer in Paul Skeens.
That's about all they have. That's the money that they have. We already talked about this.
Yeah.
Whether they actually are whether they're actually having a loss there or they're just doing Hollywood accounting, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because two things can be true, and the league and the union are allowing it to happen, and they're not changing their rules to prevent it. So therefore, to my mind, doesn't matter if they lost $2 million or made $2 million. The $19.5 million is probably about the budget that they have. They're maxed out for it. So what do they expect Cherington to do? Now, Cherington's a fucking moron, and that's a different bucket. But like, roll with me on here. Like, if you're Cherington, being a moron or not, like, what do you expect to do with $19 million in the free agent market in baseball? That's a nothing, right? Like, what are you going to buy with that?
Look at Rose. Look. He does this whole.
What?
They don't sign multi-year free agents. I can't believe it. I've never heard of such. Like, guys, you like. Tell me you don't pay attention to the Pirates without telling me you don't pay attention to the Pirates. Like, this is like,
literally think they don't. I think sometimes they just play out. I know they don't. Passan probably does, because a little bit. Like, a little bit, like just a wee bit, but like guys
enough,
in the
enough
real
to
world,
list off 3 whole prospects, maybe.
Right. He knows 3 whole prospects and 19.5 million. It's all I need to know. Let's go on the air and let's say my piece. Like that's all he cares about. But like guys like the John Boy dudes or whatever is in, popular these days, or God forbid I say ESPN, they don't even know what planet they're on. Unless the Pirates have something to do with like LeBron Jr., Bronny, I mean, they're not going to report it. So I don't think anybody pays attention to what the fuck we do, man. It's pathetic. And then they want to give us some medicine and write us a prescription, and they don't even know what is the ailment.
It gets so much worse. So they're telling us stuff that we already know, but they're acting surprised like it's this revelation that the Pirates don't sign multi-year free agents. No, they don't. Go on, tell us more.
To the year they have Jones and they have Chandler and on. Like they've got arms. Joel, I was talking about this with Joel Sherman in spring training. And Joel asked the question, if you're Ben Cherington right now, do you go to Bob Nutting and ask, over the next 5 years, what does our budget look like? Let's say it's $500 million over 5 years, which may be a little bit of a stretch because the Pirates still have never had a payroll of $100 million or over during it's wild to think about.
It's not wild because the system that you represent and that you are you slob on the knob of all the time, Jeff. On one hand you'll say, "Oh, we could never have a salary cap. The players union won't allow it," and then you're like, "I don't understand why Bob Nutting won't spend money." I mean, it's so irritating. OG, I want to punch the goddamn computer screen. I want to punch this clown in the face because he knows the answer. The answer is so simple. Just do what the other sports leagues have done. End of story. End. It is the end of this discussion. The end of all this play acting and this disingenuous bullshit. I mean, look at him. He looks like Ronald Reagan.
It
this guy
gets worse. It gets
worse.
Like Reagan? We're part way in. You got to keep going. It gets worse. I'm gonna have a stroke. I'm holding back. I got a lot to say about this. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Come on.
Back yesterday, and Bob Nutting and the Pirates have spent $1.2 billion on player salaries since 2007 when he bought the team. So we're coming up on 2 decades right now, and that's like 3 years of spending for the Mets or the Dodgers. Regardless,
that's the problem.
The Mets and Dodgers are in major metropolitan cities. The Mets are in the city that is the financial capital of the fucking world that drives the global fucking economy. Pittsburgh is not. Pittsburgh is fucking Pittsburgh. We are in a metropolitan region with parts of goddamn West Virginia. The numbers aren't there, Jeff. They aren't. And if you can get your friends and you can get your buddy Scott Boras to buy in on it, then maybe you can share a big some of that bucket of money that you have up there in New York and give some to us. And we could give Paul some money. And we could give Jared some money. And we could give you exactly what you want. But you don't ever allow us to do that. I can't, dude. This is...
Keep it going. Keep it going. It gets worse. I'm telling you.
Why?
Joel had was, if you're Ben Cherington right now and you ask for that budget over the next 5 years, do you say to Bob Nutting, can you give me $150 million this year and next year, and we'll go 80 the years after, or we'll go 75?
Okay, stop.
Whatever it is the year.
So the thesis here is all the Pirates have to do to put a competitive team around Paul Skeens right now is, instead of spending $95 million on the roster, spend $150. Do some arithmetic for me, Crab. How much money is there between 95 and 150? $55 million on the free agent market buys you what, like 2 B-tier free agents? Maybe? We're like a decent free agent, like an impact free agent that is going to change your fortunes as a club is $20 million. Like the qualifying offer was $21 million. So we're talking about 2 guys that would make more than the qualifying offer. 2 guys.
Let's use Anthony Santander. He signed a 5-year contract.
You can have him for that money. That's that.
For 90.
You can get him for I think he came out at like 18 AAV or something like that.
I'm looking at it right now. It's 5 year. It was 5 years, 92 million. But the thing is that for the Pirates, they're not going to sign a guy at 92 million because they're going to have to pay a tax to get a guy to even come here.
Well, wait. Remember what Passan said. Passan said we just need $150 million for a couple of years. That's what's been supposed to ask for, and then after that we can go back down to 80. Right? Like his idea is that so on one side of his mouth he's saying how dare they not sign multi-year free agents, and on the other side of his mouth he's saying, well, all you have to do is like boost the budget for a couple of years. You're not signing multi-year free agents if you only have the budget to do it for like 1 or 2 years. Anthony Santander got a 5-year contract. So if we're saying that the money is only there enough to kind of move stuff around and spend now while the getting's good, and then dial it back down in 3 years is what he just said. He's talking out of both sides of his mouth. You can't have your 5-year free agent that is a premium player that's going to make a difference, that's going to cost you half of the $55 million that you are just imagining exists. And what are you getting, a 2-year? Like Tyler O'Neill got a 3-year contract. The only people taking contracts shorter than that are the ones who are opting out of contracts that are longer than that. So
they're the ones the Pirates can afford to sign.
There literally aren't free agents that will make a difference to the team that you can get for 2 years, $23 million. And how many of them do you need? Like right now, looking at the Pirates roster right here today, how many good players do they need to be a good ball club that is going to make the playoffs and make a deep run? I bet it's more than 2.
Well, I'm not going to do all this I'm just going to say you need a shortstop. You need a left fielder, so that's 2. You move IKF to a bench utility role. You obviously need a second baseman, some flexy second baseman, Triolo, Frazier. I mean, you need a lot. You need a first baseman. I mean, Horowitz, is still hurt. So
right. Yeah. You need, here's what you need. Here's what you really need. And this is what it, unfortunately, money can't buy you. What you really need is for Cherington to have not absolutely borked this rebuild over the last 6 years. You need to have, if you want to put a good team around Paul Skeens, you start building that team in 2021. You can't go out and buy it in 2025 and 2026 when you don't have any money to spend. And the difference between $95 million and like 110 or 120 is like one okay free agent who may or may not actually suck for the year you need him to have a career year. So like you talked about them talking out of both sides of their mouth. This is it. This is the both sides of their mouth. Like you can't have it both ways. You can't rationalize how it's okay that the Pirates should be able to be the Brewers or the Royals, or like pick a small market team that's had any level of success in small doses or like over time. Those teams are good because they matriculate players. Yeah, they get young players on minimum contracts who are good when they're young.
The Royals are essentially last year's Pirates team with Bobby Witt Jr.
Oh, yes. With Bobby Witt Jr., and they still only made the playoffs because they got to beat up on the worst team ever in the White Sox. They are record. If you take away their wins against the White Sox, they miss the playoffs. They're under 500.
But the point is that, like, if we had a 9-win or whatever it was, 7-win or 8-win player like Bobby Witt Jr., we wouldn't be having this discussion. Like, we need better players. Like,
right.
They didn't sign him on the free agent market. We need better players, and you needed them to start that process when Cherington came here to crack the code. And the reason why
you need Henry Davis. You need Henry Davis to be Adley Rutschman. You need Nick Gonzalez to be like Gunnar Henderson. You need the bats that you acquired during your teardown to be there now. That's who you need to have now. You can't go back and get them. So like this isn't everything.
Because they all know the answer.
They do.
This,
and they're being completely disingenuous about it. They're being so disingenuous, and they're just like, but wait, there's more. Play it.
God. But wait, there's more. Hey, Billy Mays here.
The years after, can we just try to build around Paul Skeens? Can we try to take advantage of this window that we have before what seems like an inevitability of a trade? Mm-hmm. Can we just try to maximize it right now and see what we can be, and see if we build it, whether the Pirates fans will come? And let me tell you, Chris, they will.
They won't, though, because we already know this. They didn't come last year. What was the number, OG? Like a couple, only like 1,000 more a game, and they weren't coming.
Yeah, it was 1,000 more a game. But what he's talking about is like 2013, 2014, 2015 when they were making the postseason. But here's the thing: when they had all of the pinnacle of their success since the strike of 94 was those 3 years, and they went from averaging round about 20,000 fans a game to 30. They started matching what the Brewers get every single year. Like, the fans don't turn up for a winner. You gave them a winner for 3 years. You had an MVP in McCutchen. You had a team that was competing for the division. You had 98 wins in 2015. Go look at the attendance on those years. You had 30,000 fans a game on average. The stadium holds 39,000. You're not packing the park with a winner. They haven't in the past. You can go back and look at attendance figures all the way back into the heyday of the 70s. And we've talked about that too, is that there's this imagining.
There's definitely like a bunch of, I don't know what the right word is, but there's like some mythology around this. If you build it, they will come. Pardon me. But in Pittsburgh, the numbers don't bear that out. You know,
there's no them to come.
Right. There's less people here than there are in New York and other metropolitan areas. Now, everyone wants to point to the Brewers, and I understand that's a natural comp. But like the Brewers, you know, if the reporting is to be believed, like they have different revenue streams than we do. So I don't know their revenue streams, and I also don't know the Diamondbacks' revenue streams. But Jeff Passan does. That's the thing. Chris Rose does. They understand exactly what the economic realities of baseball are, and they choose to lie. No, they do. They absolutely do. They do. Like, Jeff, why don't you get Scott Boras to write a loan to the Pirates if he wants to sign players so bad? Like, you know what, you want Bob to burn his money, why don't you get Scott to burn his?
Speaking of loans, keep playing the video.
It's just stupid to me.
Keep playing the video.
I was there during the Cueto game back in the postseason.
Shut up.
I have seen what PNC Park, which is my second favorite park in baseball, behind San Francisco. I've seen what PNC Park looks like when it's full and when it's raucous and when Pittsburgh fans are showing out and have a reason to show out, and it's magical. And those Pirates fans deserve more than they have right now.
We're so sad and pathetic.
And if you're just looking at it straight from a leverage perspective, how do we leverage the roster that we have? How do we leverage our opportunity? You can't look at this as a one-year thing.
Do they realize that baseball has 9 players, and at any given time, one of them touches the ball? Like, this isn't the NBA. This isn't hockey. You don't just throw some line mates with Crosby or McDavid and he elevates their game because they play together.
Of course they know that. Of course they know that.
Do they also understand Paul Skeens pitches once every 5, sometimes 6 days? Like, this is an insane thing to talk about. These guys understand baseball. They're baseball nerds. They bathe in it. They drink it up.
They're talking out. It's disingenuous. And that's what's so maddening about it is, like, on the one hand, yes, we wish we had a better team here. Yes, we wish that Paul Skeens was the crown jewel on a good roster, but he's not. And you can't buy your way out of that. Even like if there was a Dodgers budget here, they would be hard pressed to put together a winning team out of free agency in one off season.
I mean, I said, I use the Angels all the time as a reference. The Angels had Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth on their team, right? Trout is Mickey Mantle of this generation, and Ohtani is Babe Ruth. So they had Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle on a team, and they had a couple other people around them. Like Rendon was a really nice player before he got hurt and became weird. But like that team was dog shit. And 2 good players, even position players, does not a baseball team make, period. The Rockies at various points have had some really nice players. Trevor Story, Tulowitzki. I mean, they just blew $180 million on Chris Bryant's back. Like, do we want that? Like, what, like, I don't get it, because the other side of this coin is that there's a multiverse right now where we leveraged and we did all the things that Jeff says in Earth 616, where we're at, and you go to Earth 1018, and I'm watching the same thing with you. You're the crab and I'm the OG in that one. And Jeff Passan is saying, I don't understand, why the Pirates signed Anthony Santander to a 10-year deal, because now they've hamstrung their entire budget and they can't build around Paul Skeens. Like, the opposite thing is true.
Keep it going. There's more.
You have to look at this down the road. And if we have Paul Skeens right now, why aren't we doing absolutely everything we can to build around him and to build something that's worthy of the pitcher that he is?
Yeah, he basically suggested as much in spring training. Yeah. He really did. I mean, he came out and said it without using those words. You can tell he's frustrated because he knows he doesn't want to dog his teammates, but he knows that team's not good enough. We all know it. And it really is ownership malpractice is what I would say.
Yes, I think that's exactly right. And you look at what the Pirates have done.
He has the worst face. Jeff Passan, he might be a really nice guy. If I ever meet you, Jeff, God love you. It's not personal. It's all business. But your face is eminently fucking punchable, brother. Swear to God. What a condescending piece of shit face that you have, smirking and smiling. He's sitting there smirking about Paul Skeens. We all know he's not going to stay in Pittsburgh, you dumb fuck. Okay, so can you wait a couple more years before you relish our misery in him being a Dodger, and you can just sit in? It's like that scene where the guy is sitting in Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison. He's like sitting there reading Guns and Ammo, putting lipstick on, like crossing the names off. Like, that's Jeff Passan right now, waiting to get his hands on Paul Skeens so he can write an article about how Paul was always supposed to be in Dodger blue. Oh, it's so irritating.
It's bad enough not to go out and field the kind of roster that you could.
It's awful.
But to compound that by replacing the Roberto Clemente
you son of a bitch.
number with an advertisement, to compound that by taking out the Bucco bricks and them being seen, I believe it was probably first on Reddit, at a nearby waste facility. Like, these are such self-inflicted, completely unnecessary wounds, but they're representative of a franchise that knows only unnecessary wounds. The Pirates don't have to be who they are right now. I went and looked yesterday on Forbes at its baseball valuations to see what's the Pirates' revenue last year.
Oh my God.
I believe it was $326 million. You know who else is in sort of that area, like $5 million range of revenues? The Arizona Diamondbacks, whose payroll is $188 million. Kansas City Royals, whose payroll is $134 million. The Minnesota Twins.
Oh my God! The Twins have $400 million in debt and devalued their sale because they're carrying so much debt. Is that the same team?
They can't even sell their team because of all the debt that they're in, so that they could have Carlos Correa on their team. But that's what the Pirates should do, right? Go ahead.
$147 million. The Brewers are in there. There are a couple other teams in that bucket, all of whom have 9-figure payrolls. There is zero reason that the Pirates need to operate how they operate.
There's zero reason why we shouldn't have a salary cap in baseball and revenue sharing, Chris. Like, shut the fuck up.
So that's the key. Like, keep it up. So that's the key. Like, he's listing off all of these teams that have probably similar enough revenue to the Pirates where you can, from a very high level, make the case that, well, if those teams can spend anywhere from $110 million to $180 million, then the Pirates should surely spend, I guess, somewhere in there. But the bottom line remains, they don't have the young, controllable talent that is performing at a level necessary for that kind of spending to make a difference. It's just not there. There isn't an amount of money that you could reasonably expect any of those teams that were just mentioned. Like if the Royals didn't have Bobby Witt Jr., they're dead. They don't have anything. They've got some okay filler players around him. And then they've got an MVP, like a perennial MVP candidate. And like, look at the Brewers. They've got a slew of guys on their rookie minimum contracts who are putting up 4 and 5 WAR seasons left and right. And that's why they're winning the division last year, because of their young, controllable players. Look at the Orioles, who won 101 games a couple years ago on the backs of their rookie phenoms like Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman and Colton Cowser. Like, they've got this long list of hitters. And what do the Pirates have? The Pirates have Paul Skeens. They have one starting pitcher who is really, really good. They have no bats. They've got
there any
no
more to that
bats.
video, by the way, because I can't watch any more of it.
That's basically the end of it. Like the two sides of your mouth part is saying, look at all of these other teams that are going into monstrous debt to still fail. The Twins are your example. We should be like the Twins. We should go into hundreds of millions of dollars in debt to sign the broken remains of Carlos Correa so that we can finally get the monkey off our back of always losing in the playoffs to the Yankees. We can get that one playoff win. That's what they did. That's what the Twins were managed to do with their spending the way that they had. And they've dialed it back because they lost their TV contract and they're trying to sell the team and they've got all this debt and now they're in a pickle. So Bob doesn't want to do the debt thing. I get it. Like I don't like doing debt either.
If I'm Bob, I don't understand this, because this is why I go back to the earlier part of this show. If I'm Bob, I fire Williams and Cherington, because Cherington went to Bob and said, give me money to sign Reynolds. And Bob was like, okay, you're the man. I trust you. You sure this is what you want to do? I saw it work with Huntington, and I know this is a good strategy, and this is the guy you want. Yes, Bob, it's the guy we want. We need this guy. We need Brian Reynolds. And Bob's like, okay. And is Brian Reynolds a nice player? Sure. He's very nice.
Yes. He's a
Is
good
he
player.
Bobby Witt?
No.
Is he Gunnar Henderson? Is he
Nope.
Corbin Carroll?
He's Nick Castellanos.
He's Nick Castellanos. Okay. But is that Bob's fault? Because Bob spent money. Now,
Brian Hayes.
Brian Hayes. Bob, we need Brian Hayes. Okay, are you sure his back is okay? I'm 100% certain. Like, okay, here's some cash. And then what happened? I mean,
they've got, and Hayes isn't expensive at all. Like, they've got Hayes on like barely more than what they're paying McCutchen, and McCutchen is like doing them the favor.
The point is that ostensibly, within the constraints of the Pittsburgh media market, of which we can't get a share of the net revenue streams because guys like Jeff Passan won't allow it to happen through his mouthpiece, because he's a mouthpiece for Scott Boras. We have to play within the constraints that we have, and the money isn't there. So the money we do have was used and was spent, and the core wasn't good. And Yinzers screamed like stuck pigs about the idea that somehow Brian Reynolds would have gotten traded. And that, I remember all these articles in the Post that said, pay the man, pay the man. Reddit was screaming, pay the man. Twitter was screaming, pay him, Bob. And we did. And nothing changed. Nothing changed. Because they're not impact players. They're nice players. And in Major League Baseball, nice players get paid exorbitant amounts. And the Pittsburgh media is still having a hard time grappling with that fact, because they still think it's like 2001 over here. But the point remains is that the core isn't good, to your point. And Bob, I'm not defending Bob. As I said, Bob has many critiques, and they're all valid. And even with a salary cap and revenue sharing, Bob might just be a dumbass anyway. And I don't, his passivity and his flaccidness are just awful. Grow a fucking pair, Bob Nutting.
Every
Seriously.
single team that Passan listed off as an example of what the Pirates should be are teams that have young, cheap superstars that are MVP caliber players. The Diamondbacks are spending the most of all of that, and they've almost certainly are taking on considerable debt to spend at the level they're spending right now. But they have Corbin Carroll, and he did sign a big extension, but it's backloaded. So they've got some young, very strong hitters on their roster, and then they can go out and supplement. So they did go out and sign Corbin Burns, so good for them. I mean, they're kind of the exception. They're being closer to what the Padres have been. But if you want to talk about the Twins and the Royals and the Guardians and the Brewers and the Rays, and these are all of the other small market teams.
I just want to be the Rays.
But all of these teams, the reason that they're good is because their Henry Davis wasn't a bust. Their Nick Gonzalez was a lot better than our Nick Gonzalez. So like the young bats that we have acquired over the Cherington rebuild period are just not good enough to buoy the whole team. They might be okay major leaguers at some point, but they're not MVPs. They're not prime Kutch. They're not the guy that's going to get them over the top. And so it's too late. You can't fix it now. The time to build a team around Paul Skeens was when he was in high school, when he was at Air Force, when he wasn't even a glimmer in anybody's eye. Nobody had heard of him yet because he wasn't at LSU.
His dad's nutsack was the time.
No. When he wasn't at LSU yet, winning a national championship, no one had ever heard of Paul Skeens. That's when the Pirates needed to be building the team around Paul Skeens. They can't do it now. You can't tell them to go and take the money that they do have, wad it all up into 2 years, and then say we'll tear it down in 2 years, but we got to really make a go at it for this 2 or 3 year stretch while we still have Paul Skeens. Let's just spend all we possibly can, and that adds up to $135 million. That's not enough to buy anything. So like that's what's so frustrating about, and this is always the narrative with these national media types, is they say out of one side of their mouth, we don't expect them to be the Dodgers, we don't expect them to be the Yankees, and then out of the other side of their mouth they say, why won't they go out and sign all of the free agents? That's how you build a team, just like the Dodgers and the Yankees do. It's asinine, it's maddening, and they always do it.
I agree. It is all of those things. The other thing to consider is we would have to tear it down anyway. And it seems to me that like the small market window, like there's a case, I guess, to play devil's advocate very quickly to Jeff Passan's point, there might be a case that you could make where you could say, all right, we should go in on a window around Skeens, but that would require the foresight to have to communicate that to the fans. Like that's an entirely, it's hard to say. If I'm the owner of the team and you're my general manager, I would say to you, we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. We're going to get clowned for Bucco bricks. So go out there and hold a press conference and say, we're going to go all in for 2.5 years on Paul Skeens. And then we have to trade him. And we should probably be really clear that we're not going to sign this guy for long term. Like there's a case to be made. I mean, obviously that doesn't happen in sports, but there's a case to be made where like that could have been, that could be a thing but we won't accept that here. We won't accept that here. We are still simping on the idea of Andrew McCutchen, uncle out there in right field making a catch. Like we have a hard time letting our athletes go. We have a hard time moving on culturally from things. So even if they wanted to go in and do a window and like try that, like nobody would accept that here. Bob Nutting referenced in his pre-season remarks to the paper, the Aramis Ramirez trade from 20 years ago. Like it's mind-bogglingly stupid how we don't let things go. And so I don't think that's in our DNA. It's certainly not in his DNA. It's not in Cherington's DNA. And so, like, I don't even think Jeff Passan's idea could happen here. Like, that might happen in the Rays world or the Athletics world in a way, but it's not going to happen here. They're never going to go in on a window, because that would require admitting a window exists and admitting that you have to get rid of these players, and fans won't accept that.
And what would Chris Rose and Jeff Passan do in that parallel universe where they go in on a window and they do the ruthless, like, we're just going to push we're going to go all in. We're pushing all the chips in. Here's what they do. They turn right around and they start wagging their finger about, why can't you keep your players? Why are you being so short-sighted? You'll never build a statue. You'll never have anybody in Cooperstown wearing your hat. Like, it'll be a whole new thing to complain about, because the bottom line is, as you pointed out earlier, the structural realities of Major League Baseball's economics basically make it impossible to be good enough and not receive like some kind of ivory tower finger wagging from these guys in LA and New York. And these, I'm telling, like, to reveal something to make these guys even more lovable, Chris Rose, he's recording that show in LA. Jeff Passan is almost certainly either in LA or New York. I'm not sure which one. I don't care. But they're recording this show from inside the bubble.
Well, do we have anything else to react to?
The Pirates actually played some baseball, and they won 3 out of 4 games against the Nationals at home, and they've got a brutal schedule ahead. If you look ahead,
it's bad.
Who they're going to play over the next, like, call it 2 months, they've got to play like every good team in baseball, sometimes twice. And we're talking the Dodgers, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, it's all playoff teams from last year. And it's not hard to find. It's not hard to find a lot of teams in Major League Baseball that are better than the Pirates, because most of them are. But oh boy, we're going to get to Memorial Day and we could have a very, very ugly record. Just schedule peeping.
Yeah, the Major League Baseball is 162 games, and one series is, a useless sample. The Nationals are bad, so I'm happy they won a couple games. It certainly is a lot more enjoyable to watch, but those games weren't particularly enjoyable except for that 10 run explosion against the Home Depot pitcher. But
Crew's Grand Slam was pretty cool. The whole thing with that was pretty cool. I like to see an answer on the field instead of like just a bunch of jawing. Like the fact that he just let his bat speak. Kudos, love that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but the offense is not good enough to make a run, and Chicago is probably absolutely good enough to run away with this division. I mean, I think they have this second best run differential right now, last time I looked. So, and they've scored almost twice as many runs as the Pirates. So
they're good, and they're going to continue to be good.
Yeah. I mean, enjoy baseball, enjoy it, but this season's already cooked, and just fire these losers and let's get this freaking thing over with and get some new, fresh ideas in here, Bob. Please, just save us. Just, if you're not going to sell the team, fire these guys, please, Bob.
That's probably enough for this show, but maybe for our next show, we should actually talk about baseball. We should forecast the future of what does the regime change look like when Cherington and company are shown the door and somebody else comes in. What's going to happen? Maybe we should look at that next time. But that's probably enough for this episode of the OG and Crab Show. You're going to give them your spiel. There it is.
Yeah, please like and subscribe, or don't. I don't give a shit about what you do. I hate the Pirates anyway. Fire Ben Cherington.
That's it for this show. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.